There's an obvious malnutrition problem present among our children in the Gaza Strip. The numbers have significantly increased during the war, especially in the past weeks after the closure of the Rafah border crossing. This is due to the lack of food and nutrition available in the markets in general, not to mention the shortage of special milk for children, especially high-calorie milk required by children suffering from malnutrition.
Well, for more on this, let's bring in UNICEF spokesperson Tess Ingram, who joins us live now from New York. Tess, thank you very much for your time. As we were hearing there, the situation of malnutrition and starvation is now dire, in part, in major part, down to the fact that Israel has taken over the Rafah boarding and the Philadelphia corridor, and there's hardly any aid getting in. Is this, in your opinion, is malnutrition and starvation being used as a weapon of war here?
Look, we know that we're not getting enough aid into the Gaza Strip, and we haven't been getting enough aid in for months now. And as a result, children are dying, and that has to be unacceptable to the world. You see these images here of children in immense pain because they're not getting the food and the nutrition treatments that they need to survive. And I saw it firsthand when I was in Gaza just over a month ago. And it really is a tragedy that this is continuing to happen, particularly now when it's continuing to escalate after we were beginning to get on top of it by providing aid at kind of in larger volumes in the month of April. It's now dropped off a cliff with the closure of that Rafah crossing and the inability for aid workers like UNICEF to pick up supplies from Kerem Shalom, which is incredibly limited.
Is there any aid getting in anymore? And if so, what sort of aid and where?
It's been reduced to a trickle, really. We've got a small quantity of aid through the Kerem Shalom crossing in the month of May, but it's less than half of what we would get, say, in the month of April. And that already was not enough aid. A small amount of aid has also come in through the north and through the floating pier. But again, very, very small quantities. It's essentially reduced to a trickle when the needs have increased dramatically. And that is why we're seeing reports of children dying from malnutrition in the middle areas and the south, areas where previously it wasn't as severe as, say, the north of Gaza, which had been almost entirely cut off from aid.
And yet again, more evidence that it is the children who are the true victims of this war, is it not?
Children are suffering on every single aspect of their lives at the moment. The lack of food is resulting in malnutrition. The lack of clean and safe water is resulting in dehydration and disease. They haven't gone to school in almost 8 months. And of course, the mental health toll is impacting kids too. They're not sleeping, they're not speaking, all of these reported symptoms that parents tell us about. So every aspect of a child's life has been shattered. And that's why we're so resolute about the need for a ceasefire.
And how much of a long-term health emergency is the situation in Gaza, in particular for children that we're looking at here?
Well, we know that malnutrition can have long-term impacts on children's bodies and their brains if it isn't addressed quickly enough. There's a problem called stunting, where a child's brain doesn't develop properly, and that can have lifelong impacts on their learning and their brain development right well into adulthood. We also know that compound trauma can have long-term mental health impacts. So more than 8 months of deprivation for these children is sure to have an impact, and we just really won't know the scale of that until their guns fall silent and we're really able to assess what's happening on the ground.
Tess, we really appreciate you speaking to us here on TRT World once again. Tess Ingram, live from New York there.